So Drawing Architecture Studio has founded in 2013 by Li Han and Yu Han in Beijing, with commitment to the practice of architecture drawings and architectural design and urban studies. Through their works, if I'm right, you explore the potential of architectural drawings as a unique medium to document, represent, and critique social realities. In the context of contemporary urbanization, the draw and the tradition of architectural representation incorporate influence from pop art, postmodernist aesthetics, and contemporary popular culture to create beautiful urban landscapes. And your drawings are characterized by high density, intricate details, and clean line style for the representation of diverse contemporary urban culture. So Drawing Architecture Studio has exhibited extensively in China and abroad. So the pair you represent has as we said, created the agency in 2013. For your personal background, Li Han, you got a Bachelor of Architecture from the Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing, and his Master of Architecture from the RMIT in Melbourne. On your part, Yuhan, you obtained a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Concordia University in Montreal. After the various researches I have done on your work, there is something that appeals to me is the multidisciplinary dimension of Drawing Architecture Studio and your partnerships. Indeed, the medium that you use is your research are diverse. We thus met international exhibition by your immense axonometric frescoes, research works by publication. As we can see, yeah, the exhibitions, also the books and the publication, like you made like the Beijing 798. Really, it's amazing, and works carried out with the pupils, with your students. Really nice too. Then finally, at the last scale, architectural conception by project like the Free Balcony and Yan Yu Art Spaces. These different layers will be the link for our conversation. So let's start then with the research. The beginning of your works, your frescoes and works are spread over specific neighborhoods where they are on the Chinese territory and or other else in the world. First of all, what makes you focus on a particular territory?
For our early practice, like when we started, we chose the territories based on our own interest. As shown in the book that you just showed to us, that we because we live in Beijing since our childhood, so we are so familiar with these places, and we found some particularly interesting spots in the city that has been self-developed by the people living there, not by any planning or government regulations. And we found those places are very dynamic, has very special characters. So we started to have the passion to observe and document those places.
We are also interested in the places with kind of relatively long history, or you can say old neighborhoods.
Yeah, old neighborhood.
Because in this area,
but not like historical landmarks. It's old neighborhood by for average people.
Average people, and because people use this place for quite a long time, so there are always a lot of materials you can see, and always mixed with different functions, and you can tell many interesting things. The other aspect area we interest is we call urban spectacle.
Yeah.
When for example, we actually draw a subway transfer station. Actually, it's our first drawing.
I don't know how can if you probably Laura, you stop your sharing screen and I switch to ours.
Okay, let's
yeah, let's try this. And yeah, okay, because it looks clear with the image. That's right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the drawing Li Han just mentioned. It's
Yeah.
very early piece from, it's actually before we started our practice. It's made in 2007 or 8 with a metro station in Beijing. And it's very strange because at that time, the station was under construction. So the management, they put up some outdoor, right? It was an outdoor, like a ground, like people will run into circles before they went into the station. And yeah, this is a close-up. So yeah, to us it's very strange, but at that time it was very logical, probably.
Yeah. But actually, everyone kind of complained this place because it's too long. The transfer line is too long. Every complaint. It's not a good, you can say it's not good design, not good urban design. But during that certain time, it's become a kind of spectacle, urban spectacle, and it disappeared now because at the moment it has already, have a better circulation. It's just a temporary situation, but for us, it's really interesting. It represents that period of city. So basically, we are interested in these kind of areas of the city.
Yeah, which is the same as what we presented in the books you have. Like because many places in those books, they already disappeared in Beijing. And so we found that it's actually urgent to document everything you find interesting because they will be gone very soon, suddenly.
Yeah, that's something that I find really interesting. It's just saying like, okay, today it's but during all the process that we are going to discuss together, these people and these places are going to disappear. But the fact is really interesting to know in the moment, precise moment, how all these things work together. And it's quite it's amazing. But so to resume a bit, the fact you work in some specific habitat, but also that people can share together, it's also a way to involve the population in their habitats.
Yeah, I think that's because the general approach we had at the beginning that we want to work with living environments. We decided not to just say document some vacant architecture or vacant city, because what we are interested in is how people use the space. So that's sort of like a general approach we had since very early stage.
Yeah, I think because when you join the city, you cannot avoid the life happening in this city area. So I think for us, through our drawings, through our publication, maybe the local residents can, normally they think it's not really good area. It's just a poor or old area. But when they look at this after they look at our drawings, they maybe have another
perspective to their own life.
They can see the interesting part of their life. So from this point, I think actually our work kind of
involve
people in their habitation. But I would say that this kind of media, I mean the drawing or the publication, and this media intervene the life is different from architecture. Architecture normally is very directly intervene your life. You can change it can change your behavior directly. But drawing and publication, maybe it can intervene your life through spiritual aspect. It give you some inspiration or give you certain remind you some certain memory or something like that. But for us, this kind of intervention also important because today I think this sort of internet medium, social medium plays more and more important role in our life. Our lifestyle change. It's not like, when we talk about habitation, it's not just about living in a house or eating or something. It's almost like working, living mixed together. Just like we have this dialogue just through a screen. But in the past, maybe we have to go to an auditorium to give this kind of talk. But today, we just through a laptop or a screen, we can do that. So that means this sort of
the dimension
this sort of intervention become more and more important.
Yeah, of course, when you see that the city is completely other scale, I think. Yeah, changing our scales, and we have to change also the fact how we are presenting and representing it.
Yeah.
About that, in the introduction of 798, you state the astronomical amounts of data that you make up your work. Can you share with us how the collection protocol of your work you carry out? So, like, what is your protocol to
process? As we previously discussed that at the beginning, we started our drawing practice just based on our own interest. Actually, 798 is a very special piece in which that we started to build drawing as a sort of model of our practice, because this is the first piece that we got commissioned to make this mural. And because this is a commission, and so usually for this kind of commission, the client, either like sometimes it's an organization or sometimes it's institution or a commercial company, they will give us some specific theme, like say for this one is because the piece will be installed in 798, so the client Hyundai Motor Studio that they want this piece is part of the area. So when we get the briefing, we always started with the research, because this is in Beijing, so we were able to really visit the site, take as many photos or videos as possible, and then we will work with so we get a lot of material, like visual materials, and we need to come up with some theme, like to organize everything.
When we do the site observation, we don't really measure, although we do draw a lot of details, but we don't really measure each building's height or
we don't work
size.
With specific measurements.
I think to me it's not that important for the exactly accurate dimension, but the scale, the atmospheres is more important. And also we can use like Google Earth, this sort of software. They provide you the basic tool to measure the dimensions. So that's enough. And we can also, normally we will have 10 people to work on drawing as big as this. So they all has architecture or design background. So basically they have the ability to, to tell the height of the space based on, the door or the window, these kind of standard elements. Then you can tell the size. So basically we don't do exactly measurement. But for us, more important is to see
the feeling,
feel the atmosphere of the space.
And we have actually, for this question, we have several pictures to show you how we work. That for 798 is the very first big mural we did, and at that time we started to work from. It's actually the way is very similar to how you work on an architecture drawing, architecture design. That we always come up with the master plan first. And then based on the plan, we can decide to make the selection for the architecture. We will choose the one which is maybe most interesting or has special either historical or maybe cultural functions. And then we all put them into this master plan. And here you can see that in this drawing, we separate the drawing into, I think it's nine pieces. So when we work with a team, so each person is assigned to one specific area. So that, and then we have a very standard drawing techniques and the styles. So all the team members can work together and at the same time, and then we put them together in the end. So this is how usually it works for big drawings like this.
But in the early stage, normally our drawing is really based on the exactly reality. Urban structure, the road street network, mostly based on the real situation. But recently we prefer
we add more different reference into the drawing because we found that it's if we only say document the reality, it's somehow you always feel like you are drawing a map. It's but we think that as a drawing, we have the a privilege to mix more things together, like more different backgrounds, information together. So this is a piece we did this year, and it's very interesting example to show you how non-architecture elements influenced our creation. This is a mural we did for the city of Macau, and the content of the drawing is still about the architecture in Macau, but besides the buildings themselves, we also draw inspiration. I don't know if you are familiar with Macau. It's a city of famous for gambling industry. It's like the Las Vegas in Asia. So we drew a lot of inspiration from the gambling machine because we found they are very interesting. They have very interesting interface, just looking like the city plan. So we based our. So this is another game design, and you can see from the sketch, it looks like a master plan for a city. So we based our master plan on such games. And then we also had a lot of inspiration from image. Like we use a lot of Pinterest or a Google search, this kind of image search function, because you can see here, like for this drawing, we're particularly interested in the patterns, the pavements or the colors of the traditional drawing or the postmodernist architecture.
So
this is a more step-by-step early sketch. You can already see the basic layout of the drawing. So it's like we redid the planning for Macau. And then the second stage is that we do everything in AutoCAD. So here the whole team will work on the drawing for about maybe more than 1 month, that we fill in all the details and with buildings and with all the roads and transportation. So this is the final look.
Because for us, actually, our style, drawing style is relatively stable. We use clear line style with flat color. And also our elements are all real elements. So I think the most creative part of our drawing is how to organize these elements, how to connect them, how to make it a basic structure, basic layout of the drawing. So at the beginning, we based on the real city, city street network. So recently we kind of more based on more different culture.
Maybe like we look outside architecture itself, like we think that there's more interesting visual or cultural reference that we can use to organize architecture.
And therefore we can keep each drawing different from each other. So each time it's another new situation.
We try to, even if they look still similar, if you look at the whole body of our work, but in each piece we still try to make something different.
It's more like a design drawing mixed together, because when you draw a new layout of the city, actually you redesign the city.
So that's also another example to show you is right now is the very latest work we have been working on. It's a drawing for city of Busan in South Korea. It's for exhibition, and so the subject is to do a piece about Busan. It's a harbor city in South Korea, and the drawing you see here is a very original version, in which we didn't have a really clear idea about the no any specific reference or purpose. So we just do the architecture. So all these line drawings, they are based on the actual architecture in the city. But then with a further research, we found a very interesting reference in the traditional Korean painting. It's called Tsinghua. It's a very difficult to pronounce for us as well. It's some very traditional Korean painting about still life. You will always see very clear framework, and the subject is always about books and objects.
It's like a chamber of curiosity, a European chamber of curiosity.
Chamber of
chamber and put
all the valuable collections. So we found that this actually could be a good breakthrough for the drawing. So we reorganized our composition.
Basically, once we have this drawing, then we got inspiration, then we kind of reorganize how the city elements, like these highways, this bridge, or they become the chamber, the furniture part, and the building, the maybe landscape elements become the curiosity
become the books and objects. So it's like replace the still life with architecture.
So this you interpret the city through a drawing.
Because for us it's very important that we are not satisfied anymore with direct documentation. We want to bring it to another level. And also, as you mentioned earlier, that our belief that we believe in architecture drawing as a unique art format. So drawing or painting or drawing format. So we think that with much wider range of reference, we can push this idea further.
And also because actually we cannot, for this kind of commission, we cannot really go to the
site.
City,
We cannot go there.
The pandemic issue. So we have to do this drawing only with the material we found on the internet. So in this sense, this sort of image software,
image search, like a database, because we are very we are very visual, that we mostly take reference from the visual materials and do some collage or transformation through our software.
So that gives us a lot of help.
So basically that's how we work for our drawings.
Once we get the structure of the drawing, then we divide this drawing into different parts. Then the group, our group will each member of the group will focus on certain parts. Refining this part
Yeah.
until everything.
Yeah. So the actually the standard for, as you asked, the how we process the data, this is how we always depend on this kind of the idea of the drawing, the theme of the drawing to make our selection. We will find which is the more appropriate or more relevant for the drawing itself.
Yeah, recently we also want to do experiments with materials. Like this one, we test the the glass film material because this drawing will be installed on the glass.
Yeah.
So basically, we use five films with five
five colors of films in total. So this piece is more like a direct bringing AutoCAD lines into reality, into material world. So this is a very new experiment to us as well.
Okay, thank you. Because we saw all the work you do for presentation architecture, but in a high scale and all the different format. But in the same time, and which is really specific to your works, is you bring also the story of the people which are living there. Like you say, some stories of characters that are living in the place are even more touchful than fiction. So how also you create stories with all your comics, and also in these comics, which is the reference about Chris Ware, and all this mood about all your comics, and how you create all these stories which are really amazing.
The stories usually that's what we that's very also another important part of our drawing is like a graphic novel, as you mentioned. And as you said, that we are very much inspired by work of Chris Ware. And first of all, because his drawing just looks so much like the architecture drawing, because he used these rulers and always using tools and draw everything draw the environment in axonometric projection. And what we also found, the power of his work is that he can really tell the story through images. Because I don't know if you read any of his long graphic novels, like The Smartest Kids, Jimmy Corrigan. Because that one is very really touching, and but in general you didn't see a very complicated stories. They are more like about emotion or the feelings that a person experienced throughout his life. And we found something really inspiring to us is that we are confident in making images, but we are not confident in writing stories. It's really another kind of talent. And but we think that what Chris Ware showed us, that you can still find some your own rhythm or your own approach in this kind of storytelling. So for example, the book we did several years ago with the area called Dashlar is a very specific graphic novel book. In this book, we decided that we didn't write our own stories, but we go to these venues and interview the people living in these spaces. For example, this page is a story about an architecture studio we are very familiar with. People's architecture office. Yes, they live in this neighborhood, and they did a lot of work based on Hucheng life. So we interviewed the architects, and here we basically just show how they construct their office space with their own design. So we think that only just by showing the pictures in the sequence, you already feel the how they live in the area. And this page is another designer friend. He studied architecture, but then he decided to become a fashion designer. He also has this office studio in the Hucheng, and so we only put up very short wordings extracted from our interviews, but try to represent the atmosphere he shared with us when he lives in the Hutong area.
Yeah, for us, because it's important to balance the drawing and the text in graphic novel. Because if you read graphic novel, if the story is too dramatic, sometimes you just read the story, you forget the image. And for us, the Chris Ware make really perfect balance that you can read the drawing, read the text together, and they mixed into one power. So that's why we think we can write a script based on interview, based on the real true story, because our life is not that dramatic. It's just normally it's daily life. But by re-edit this daily life, you can still get certain interesting script to interesting story to tell.
Yeah. So our graphic novel will be more image driven, and we think that still give you a lot of space to work with, and we have but it's actually more time consuming to create some graphic novel than making big drawings. So we have been a little bit behind on our schedule for more graphic novels, which we hope that we can pick up maybe next year to do some more new work.
Because it's amazing. In the same time, you can represent the sections and plans also in your drawings and your novels. And and today I saw it in school. Everyone is doing are doing comics. It's a new way to represent things, and it's amazing because in the same time you can see all your precise sections or plans or technologies, but you create the story. And I think in the work to be architects is also to bring some stories and to tell the way you think and how people are living in the place in the future also. Also about the reference and the models, I saw that you worked recently in some project, Archigram City Supercut, sorry, and you did like a triptych about walking, plugging, and floating. And I'm really interested about this kind of stuff because how you think how the futuristic utopia of the 70s carried by the agencies today, like an Asian model, or how Asia or specifically like China can be that kind of futuristic and do the innovation.
Okay.
I think that's these projects, like first we got this we work on this project because the M+ Museum in Hong Kong, they decided to do a symposium on archigram because they acquired all the whole archigram collection, and so we found that because we always actually very interested in the work of archigram because their drawings, like the plug-in city, like this kind of in the 60s and 70s, those drawings, they always work with rulers and the campus, have very special or unique architectural aesthetics. So that has been a very important inspiration to us all the time.
And also the idea is also important. I think these archigrams idea actually influence, I don't know, actually, because at the same time in Japan, they have metabolism, and you can tell it's quite similar to each other. And so this time M+ Museum want to make a symposium about archigram and the Asian city. So in this drawing we draw we select 3 most important projects with M+ Museum, walking city, plug-in city, and floating city. Each design actually have a broader relationship with different contemporary urban issues like plug-in city related to megastructure, a walking city is mobility, floating related to ocean, related to this
inflatables.
Something like that. So, but actually, we also want to add some Asian vernacular building and construction in this drawing, because we find actually there are similarity between this vernacular drawing and this avant-garde utopian design, like this floating village in Cambodia, actually similar to Fuller's design that a city floating in the ocean, very large city floating in the ocean designed by Fuller.
Yeah, because as you saw the drawings in the archigram city supercut, that's in the drawing we redrew a lot of master work, architectural works, like shares a similar concept with archigram, but as our own reinterpretation as how what's the relationship between archigram and Asian cities, we think that this kind of vernacular construction is actually more dynamic, has more power, because it's something that everyone is familiar with, that is not by any master architects, but it actually shares a very similar concept with archigram and their peers. So like this is an escalator in Hong Kong that is very similar to the concept of a plug-in city, and also with this kind of vendors, it's very mobile. It's the same as a walking city in some way, because walking city still looks like very scientific. It looks like a huge giant monster, like it's still very difficult, or at the moment still not so easy to realize. But actually those are more realistic walking cities to us, that they break it down into different objects. Because we found that what's interesting between Asia and Europe, if by our own observation, is that Asian cities, like in Asian cities, objects probably play a more important role in the city life, because architecture is something permanent, standing there forever, but also it's hard to modify. But objects is more temporary, mobile and flexible. And here, maybe in Asian cities, I think that we can find that in many Asian cities, not only in China, also in different other places, we found a similar situation that but people are very creative with temporary construction objects. So that's something we think that is actually very similar to the concept of archigram, because for example, they're instant city. So this kind of connection is what we are particularly interested in. That's why we find that archigram concept or spirit is still so
I think it's a fully
still relevant to contemporary to the present in Asian cities.
Especially I think to Asian cities, the archigram's very utopian idea concepts actually realized in contemporary Asian cities, like in Singapore or Hong Kong. There are large mega structures, buildings looks pretty like archigram's drawing.
Maybe this kind of connection is not deliberate, because those average people, they probably don't know archigram, and they didn't plan to copy any archigram's works, but somehow they end up in very similar concepts. So which one we find is very interesting, and we think that it's a still very long-lasting subject we can talk about.
Yeah, of course, it's the innovation of Studio and all these temporaneous, and the question of the time is also really relatable to your work, because how you say is you just sketch like a precise moment in the city in the city. So when you say like, of course, all the cities in Asia are moving all the time, really quick and being in the moment. Yeah, this question is really relatable to you, to your work. Also, another facet that we don't speak yet about your work is the way that you teach at university. And it's a workshop that I found really powerful is about the balconies. And how did you see the impact on your students about the change of the look and to the careful observation of the environment? How you catch that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the can switch to this one. Yeah, the balcony project is actually already the second workshop in the same series. The first one is we work with is about the construction in Hutong. It's in the same university we carried out with Professor Jin in Beijing. And for the first project workshop, we focused on those small constructions in the Hutong area, like built by the residents. And we asked the students to use drawings. They were both first-year students, and so they didn't really have a lot of knowledge or skill. But we asked them to go just back to the very fundamental skills of architecture training that we asked them to make models and make drawings. And the balcony project here, we focused on models that we asked them to observe the balcony in Beijing, and everyone will come up with two models, and then we stack them together. And what we want to share with the students in those workshops is that to just because they are new to the profession, and but maybe those masterworks to them, they are too far away.
I would say because normally a young student will take masterpiece as their goal,
study
like building design by Le Corbusier, Frank Lloyd Wright. That's the right thing. And this poor balcony, poor building in Hutong area is a bad example. But for us, actually, maybe this poor building made by ordinary people actually have a lot of creativity. I think as architect, we are kind of used to this sort of elite thinking because architects serve the power, people serve government. You are kind of always enclosed by this elite environment. However, when you look at this vernacular building, you get a really fresh idea, and sometimes I feel this creativity from the bottom is even more powerful. Maybe it's not very complicated, not very deep, but it's very direct, very original. So for us, that's also important to look at, to learn. And also, this is a raw material directly from the life, not the masterpiece, actually already refined. So actually, you can develop your building, your own style, your own work, more possible from raw material rather than masterpiece.
Yeah,
that's why we want this young student to look at this raw material from life and to see another aspect of architecture.
Yeah, because sometimes we feel that at the moment it's very often that our standard of beauty or good is too similar. Like we have very generic or very standard for what's good in architecture. Somehow you find it's a little bit constrained by this kind of concept. So we hope that bringing in some different perspective, how different raw materials for the young students, then they can know at the very beginning that they don't have to be like say put themselves like just encircle themselves in one particular style of architecture, because the world is very diversified, and so is architecture, so they should have their own possibility to explore.
Sorry. Of course, and about this way also to introduce like something else in architecture, you also change your dimension and your scale, and you create architecture also. And I would like to know if you can speak about a bit about a free balcony, which in the same mood is like the introduction of something else in a huge structure. So there's like this project really nice about the free balcony, and also Yanyun art, which is another way to create the space also.
Yanyun art space is very early piece.
It's very
our first design project probably is for a friend from university. He has his own studio and asked us to do a design for it. But at that time that we didn't really find a very clear approach for ourselves. We just did it as a standard design project.
At that time, we still separate our drawing research and our design. So design is about design, and drawing research is another part. They don't have many connection.
But for free balcony, and it's actually a combination of because at that time we already have this workshop with the students about the balconies in Beijing. So it's actually kind of our own sort of input from those workshops, from the research to a design. That's the interesting part of this project is that the balcony here originally it's not closed by the developer, so the owners can close the balcony by themselves. But usually the owners, as you can see here at the bottom, they always close it as a standard glass box for a very for maximum space use. But here, this is also for a friend, and he is very generous and ask us to do whatever we want. And so we think that we want to make something different for his balcony. And because we really love this kind of tea house design in Japan, and we found that we have a chance to turn the balcony into a small tea house, a small cottage for our friend. So here we actually didn't make anything out of the red line for the space. We still follow the same dimension requirement for the balcony, but we closed it into a very unique shape. And so you can compare to the other part of the facade. It's like a fairy tale cottage in a concrete standard apartment. And so what we think that it's sort of like because when we look at other people's balconies, even though they are very often they are poorly made, they are not professionally constructed with a lot of weird or messy materials, but somehow it always shows that people want to make something out of their balcony. It's like a mirror, like you can see what they like or what they need in their life. But here, like our friend, he wants small like a small tea house where he can get a peaceful moment. And so that's why we turned it into something he needs through design.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is one direction for when we do the real design. And another direction actually is related to our drawing. Because for us, we always want to mix the drawing, the space together. Actually, during the long time in history, decoration, drawing, building actually are mixed together. When you see the church in Renaissance time, or you see the ancient Chinese building, there are a lot of drawings in the wall of the building. Only, after the modernism, it's kind of decoration separate from space. So what we want to do is get these things back together, because we love drawing, and also
we want to make drawing a kind of a building material. Like it's not a decoration anymore. That it will feel that it's part of the building naturally. And
this is actually a party school. So normally, party school is very, they have
no fun.
Because it's really political place. It's very standard, and it's a kind of renovation, not new building. They just want to make slight renovation, and we find by using image, you can change the space dramatically with very little.
The cost is relatively low, but the effect is much stronger than some regular means of renovation. So and also this is another example we just completed this year. It's outside. It's a gable wall of a warehouse, old warehouse in the city of Shenyang, and it's the developer need to keep it, but they still want to make something new out of it. So we did a mural for this gable wall, and because the gable wall has a very interesting shape, looking like a basilica architecture. So we follow that idea, and we make the drawing perfectly fits into the structure of the wall. So in the end, it looks like a new building. And
also actually there's a kind of cultural background information, because in this area actually is poor kind of economic development, not very good, but culture is very strong in recent years. So there is
connection we want to bring.
There is it's a trend we call Renaissance in this area. So when we say Renaissance, you definitely will think about the Renaissance in Italy. So basically, we bring these two issues together. So
this is how we, if answer your question, that this is how we understand our drawing and the design, the relation between two of them. Probably through the years, we become more and more clear about this approach. Because we think that if we do just the regular design works, it's maybe it's not that special. But if we can find our way and to use our own strengths, we think that's a lot to work with. It's you can find this kind of inspiration from the traditional architecture, and we think that we can have an opportunity to revive this tradition and making something still relevant to our contemporary design.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll have a final question, because the dimension of nature in your work and its wild element is, I don't know, but quite absent from your documentation. Is it a desire or a project to work on nature or ecological issue in the future?
You mean the nature itself, right? The nature,
like nature and the wild effects.
The wild, yeah, that's true. It's like till now, nature is never a really key subject in our works, because we started with observation in cities. We are mostly familiar with cities or the built environment, so we didn't really look a lot into the nature. But it's also because that's the way we work, the tool we use, because we use AutoCAD or SketchUp or Rhino, this kind of software to do the very geometric drawings. But so it's not really, it's not that fit for natural elements, because natural elements are more organic or with a lot of curves or freehand drawing. So that's why for now we haven't really step into that field.
But I think maybe in the future we can maybe because it's more difficult for us to, draw the natural element with AutoCAD. For us, the beauty of architecture drawing lies in, the accuracy, the geometric, very mechanical beauty. But this beauty kind of is very different from the beauty of nature. So it's really actually it's maybe for us it's
maybe until we find a way to use our way of drawing to depict nature.
Yeah.
Because I think to us, there's no limit in subject. We think that any subject, as long as it's interesting, that we can work with. It's only a problem that if you can use your material, your instruments to best illustrate that subject. So for now, because right now in some pieces we will do maybe landscape in a small part of the composition, and with some natural maybe plants or landscape elements, but in a very geometric way. So this could be some small test. If later we find a way to better do it in for a large nature, the subject is nature, then we of course will move into that field.
Yeah, but actually I quite see your in your works on nature in some wild and some unpredictable things. There is some axonometries where we can imagine roots everywhere, but that side of growing and the fact of nature giving itself also. But but yeah, it was like a question, because today all this question about ecology and how you can integrate it in a drawing, it's also another question. But yeah, thank you so much. Well,
thank you for your questions. They are really good, very wonderful ones. And
I think I do a lot of research, so you can ask
good questions.
Good questions.
But actually, I just fell in love with your work. It was like really a pleasure to work in it, because there is a sensitive way to approach the design, and I love drawing in architecture. It's a way I really like to do projects. So see a firm like yours just doing like that so well, it was like really a pleasure, and thank you so much for all your time and your answers.
Thank you so much for your interest in our works, and we hope that we will continue make new works that you find inspirational.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your work is beautiful, but not only, it's almost meaningful, I think. And we find this ecology and nature things in your work. Especially, I discover you work with the drawing promenade you made during COVID, during the pandemic time. It speaks about human nature and the interaction between us and with our environment. And this is very meaningful, I think. And thank you so much for your work and the inspiration that it could give us and our students. Thank you.
Thank you.